Greetings programs, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. In this video, what I wanted to do was to take you through an update, a final update if you like, for my lazy one button Merc build that I had two previous videos for on my channel, which I really kind of enjoyed, and I've got to level 56 here. In a moment, and what I'll do is I'll put timestamps in so that you can jump ahead if you don't just want to see me moving through this Titan Grotto, fighting the final Colossus boss, and then showing you my build, my character, things like resistances, my equipment. I'm going to show you my passive skills as well. I'm going to show you my, like I say, my equipment and also my gems, my skill gems, my support gems, and other spirit gems, etc. that I use with this build. Part of this build has developed over time as a separate character, and the reason that this is a final update is because I want to move to that other character after this video and actually show you how I got into endgame with that character. But it's a very similar build to this one. This build started off in video 1 where I was around like level 22 to 25, and I was trying to create the laziest possible build, you know, coming from the days of, say, Diablo 3 and other types of ARPGs that I've played. I like playing ranged builds, and I like to not have a significantly difficult rotation or even a complex rotation that can go wrong and that can, you know, get me into trouble. I prefer to be focusing on movement. And so this video, like I say, with the timestamps, you can skip ahead, and if you don't want all this explanation and me sort of running through the dungeon here for a few minutes and then fighting the final boss, feel free to skip ahead or watch it again and skip ahead to those timestamps so that you can see my skill gems, the reasoning behind those, my equipment, and other parts of the build, things like resistances, things like you know, the passive skill tree, as well as the Ascendancy part, which is the Mercenary part of the build as well, so that you can try and emulate it yourself. You can see the spirit of the build is basically to have a single button, and this was actually from a couple of other watchers who kind of put me on to this particular strategy, if you like, or you know, core of the build, which is basically you're going to use explosive shot pretty much individually. I initially discounted explosive shot and was actually using high velocity rounds as well as explosive shot because I found that high velocity rounds was the way to go against bosses or single significant targets, you know, yellows and so forth, monsters. But the reality is the trash mobs I was finding fine with the explosive shot. And then a particular viewer, I forget the commenter, forgive me for that. I think I call you out on video 2 of this lazy Merc build, so I did mention you, hopefully. They put in my mind the idea to use explosive shot. And there was another commenter as well, thank you to them too, who mentioned piercing. Okay, and so when I go through the support gems for my explosive shot skill, you will see that I'm using Scattershot plus Pierce plus martial tempo, and the idea is that, you know, you want to offset, you want to increase the ability of explosive shot to do as much damage as possible. You know, wide sort of area, three projectiles that you're shooting each time, large amounts of damage as the shot passes through monsters, but also explodes behind them. And the reasoning behind explosive shot is to clear trash. But if you want to have a single button lazy build like my intended build, and, you know, power through mobs, power to the end, to the boss, and then not have to switch things out before you face the boss, like I did in sort of video 1, where I was using high velocity rounds, or video 2, and then high velocity rounds going to explosive shot. That was the update 2 video. You know, the fact of the matter is you want to be as lazy as possible, just use one skill the whole time. It's quite fun. You can clear maps, you can clear things. Even into endgame this works, by the way. For any of you wondering, is this just a strategy for the campaign, you know, standard and then cruel acts 1 to 3? Well, I've done it on my ranger. My ranger is now 73. I use exactly this pretty much this strategy and build I'm using that single explosive shot with the piercing, with the martial tempo and scattershot. So it works for the ranger. It's just that the ranger, I like the speed of the ranger, I like movement speed. I like also the fact that I get the extra projectile. That feels quite neat. But you can do it with a Merc. You can do it with, even a Gemling. That would work quite well, I suppose. But I suppose with the Gemling Ascendancy, the idea is there to use multiple skills to get the benefit of, being able to socket more than one supports gem into your skills of the same type. So, it'll work for your ranged classes that use projectiles, specifically the Merc, the Mercenary um, and the Ranger. So, like I say, it works for Rangers as well. If you're wondering whether it does, yes, it does, absolutely. And I'm going to show you videos coming up soon on the channel, where I take my Ranger into Endgame mapping Tier 5, Tier 6 maps. Okay, it's not like end game where, I'm doing the absolute kind of, Tier 15 and all that kind of stuff. No, but at the same time, it does work beyond the campaign. So if you're a Merc and you're using this strategy, know that it should get you through to the end of Cruel, Act 3, and then into your mapping for the end game period as well. It works. So the idea is I'm running around clearing the map here, which is the Titan Grotto. I'm looking to get to the end boss, which is the Colossus. Very annoying because I get lost a couple of times here. I use an idea which I've always done with mapping in dungeons is you just stick to the left wall and then eventually you're going to get there. And here he is. I finally get to him at the Deus of Reckoning. There's the Colossus there coming up. And, I don't want to be swapping out skills at this point. I just want to stay lazy. Zalmarath the Colossus. And so I know, I fought him many times. I know just keep moving, keep rolling, keep healing. And that having, a single button to press. Okay, yes, I use the artillery turret there. That just gives me just a little smidgen more damage and something else to do. But, when it comes to bosses. But reality is you don't actually need to use him. Use that extra skill. Explosive shot with the piercing works well on single targets like bosses because, and this was again a viewer who commented to give me this idea, and thank you to them, because the idea is it pierces the boss and explodes behind them, which actually kind of deals more damage. You'll see also that when I go through the passive skills, I've emphasized attack speed, projectile damage. I've emphasized movement speed where I could find it as well. And so it's all about the damage. It's all about the attack speed. Movement speed, I'm absolutely critical on that. I want to be able to move as fast as I can, especially for bosses. So the build itself is all about using explosive shot with those support gems. I'll show you in just a moment. Scattershot, martial tempo, and pierce. That allows me to do both, mobs, general trash, and also single target bosses. Brilliant. So it is one skill that does it all. Okay, you'll see that I also use spirit gems. I'll talk about those in a minute. Herald of Ash, Herald of Thunder are key to this. You can use the other auras as well, where necessary. I like to augment my damage, especially on trash, by shooting, my explosive shot, and then occasionally it's also proccing the lightning damage coming down, which is great. And so just taking you through some of, the character, for example, you see my resistances aren't bad there. In terms of equipment, I haven't spent a lot of time on equipment there because really what it is just about the movement speed. As we get into the passive skills, you see the ascendancy points. I've just put them into the culling strike because I want to finish things off as best I can. That's going to finish off low health enemies. I'm just re-emphasizing what I said a few minutes ago, which is any passive skill in the Merc tree that's going to give me attack speed, projectile damage, increased damage. I'm not too worried about accuracy, not too worried about evasion and things like that. I'm going into movement speed, projectile speed, attack damage. Anything that helps as well, which I haven't got here, I haven't emphasized, but which I did on my Ranger, which is kind of like this version 2, if you like, is also elemental damage for the explosions, the fire damage, and also the lightning damage from Herald of Thunder there. You can see my skill gems. Explosive Shot is the star here. Explosive Shot plus Pierce, Martial Tempo, and Scattershot. Um, then I use the Artillery Ballista very occasionally. I don't even use it with trash, but only on bosses. And then the Spirit Gems, I use Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ash, and Defiance Banner. Now, remember that I'm level 56 here. So as I would go further into endgame with this, which I haven't done because I switched over to Ranger and then, got my Ranger up from like, level 12 or whatever it was at the time with a longbow. I then used a crossbow from that point on because I wanted to take this build and really take it further and get the benefit of the Ranger's movement speed and some of their, advantages like the extra projectile and that kind of thing. Your mileage may vary. You might love the Merc with this particular build. You want it nice and simple. There's advantages to the Merc, to the Deadeye. Sorry, not to the Deadeye. That's the Ranger. But to the Merc Ascendancy that I've chosen there. There's, as I say, your mileage may vary. Mercenary, this works really well. You can see the effect of it. I was able to deal with trash and bosses at the same sort of level that I'm at there in Act 2 Cruel. This would work into Act 3 Cruel, no doubt, and into mapping, no doubt whatsoever, because it works with my Ranger. There's nothing significantly special about the Ranger. It's just the Ranger has a different emphasis. If I wanted to with the Merc, I could, lean on grenades if that's what I really wanted to do, and there's other benefits from the Merc side of the tree. With the Ranger, I actually, using the same strategy, explosive shot with the same gems, and also the Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ash, and the Defiance Banner aura, same idea. I emphasize movement speed, and what I end up doing is I come from the Ranger side, which is the sort of, right hand bottom corner. I move into the Merc side of the tree, and I use some of the Merc passive skills as well. So they're very much the same sort of build. And like I say, I will create videos on that so you can see the thinking behind the Ranger side if that's what you want to go for. I thank you very much for watching. Remember, there's timestamps, so if any of this didn't make sense, be sure just to watch those sections again. But in a nutshell, explosive shot is going to get you through the game, through the campaign, into endgame. It's lazy.